What's going on, everybody? I'm your host, Ben Balian, back with another episode of the Sports Pod, and in today's episode, I'm going to recap Game 3 of the NBA Finals. The Spurs fight back and take their first game of the series, and as a Knicks fan, this was a trap game for the Knicks. The Spurs weren't just going to roll over, and they were playing with their backs up against the wall. I know it sucks to watch because it feels like the refs kind of took New York out of the game, but this is going to be a series, and the Knicks just have to stay focused, make the right adjustments, and come back on Wednesday ready to fight back. I'll get into all of it on the other side of the intro. Hit it.
DiVincenzo at three. Bang! Bang! Got the wall. He jumps. It's gone. He did it. He did it. Pete Alonso with the most memorable home run of his career.
All right, getting into the episode, and I'm going to start by addressing the elephant in the room, the officials. They sucked, and there's nothing you could do to change that. Some of those calls just don't make sense, especially the Victor Wembanyama no call where he grabbed the back of Jalen Brunson's neck and blatantly shoves him to the ground unprompted. The fact that it was a no call was bad in itself, but then the head of NBA officials goes on national television and says something should have been called, yet when the NBA had a chance to fix their mistake and upgrade the foul to a flagrant, which it should have initially been called, but it wasn't, it makes no sense. The play is in 4K, slow motion, whatever you want, you can look at it from every single angle and you don't call anything? And you know why? It's because Wemby is 2 flagrant fouls away from being suspended. And if the Knicks retaliate tonight, Wemby needs to be able to protect himself. He's the little golden boy. It's terrible. And from a business standpoint, I get it. Like, Wemby's going to be the face of the league. But from a fan perspective and an objective perspective, where we're trying to watch basketball at its peak, the best product the NBA has to offer, the NBA Finals, and we have to see garbage like that, it's ridiculous. And then the Jalen Brunson flagrant, where he doesn't even close out recklessly, but Julian Champagnie jumps 5 feet forward and lands with his toes on Brunson's foot, and it's a flagrant on Brunson. But then in the corner, on the other side of the court, Victor Wembanyama is closing out on Josh Hart in the corner, and Hart lands on Wemby's ankle with his entire foot. Nothing is called. Again, from a business perspective, it makes sense for Wemby. And from a business perspective, the NBA needs this series to go as many games as possible. And if the Knicks went up 3-0, the NBA would be screwed in terms of rating and in terms of money. They want this to be a 7-game series, so they have to extend it. They can't let this be done in 4 games, but you gotta give the players a chance. In games 1 and 2, the officiating wasn't good, but it was bad enough where the Knicks could overcome it. It wasn't too crazy where it was impossible for the Knicks to win. I'm seeing videos of one of the refs after Wemby misses a shot to end the half. He sits there in disgust. He looks terrified. He looks like he's going to lose his job if the Knicks won that game. And that's where it's too much. That's where you got to give the players a chance, because this is the NBA Finals. And I know you can't blame the entire game on the refs, and I'm going to get into that in a little bit, because the Knicks didn't play well. But from an official's perspective, the game was decided before the players took the court. However, like I said, you can't pin the entire game on the refs. You got to look at what the Knicks did as well, because they came out flat. And on like 2 of their first 3 possessions, they turned the ball over. They turned the ball over all night long. And a lot of it was just lazy stuff. A lot of it was bringing the ball just a little bit over half court and letting a Spurs player jump a passing lane. Not taking the necessary effort to get the ball across the court, to take the right lane and drive and kick and do all the things they were doing so well. It was laziness, and I don't know if it was complacency. The Knicks were comfortable up 2-0 and thought they were just going to cruise at home. I don't think it was that. It just wasn't the style of basketball they've been playing, and that's something I'll get into a little bit later, but it starts with the key guys. The starting 5 didn't do anything. I'll start with Mikal Bridges because he did straight cardio out there. He scored 2 points on 5 field goal attempts. Listen, he's been worth every first-round pick in these playoffs, but if you're telling me the guy who was arguably the MVP of the Eastern Conference Finals took 5 shots in Game 3 of the NBA Finals and scored twice, it's not good enough. He looked like he didn't want to be out there, and I know he had 2 fouls really early on, so he couldn't really be as aggressive as he wanted to. He was restricted to the bench for a lot of this game, but Mikal Bridges has to be better, plain and simple. He can't be that bad. He has to be on the court aggressive and making shots and taking shots, making opportunities for himself if the Knicks are going to close this series out. He wasn't good enough in Game 3. Next, Karl-Anthony Towns, and this isn't just Game 3. This is all 3 games of this series. He has not scored in the fourth quarter. In Game 1 in the fourth, he was 0 for 1. In Game 2, same deal, 0 for 1. And then in Game 3, he was 0 for 4 in the fourth quarter. He is the second best player on this team. He is the second leading scorer. And in the fourth quarter, when the game is on the line, when he's supposed to be at his best, he's taken 6 shots across 3 games. Again, not good enough. And he's playing so well with his defense on Wemby that I'm not going to get too mad at it, but that has to change if the Knicks are going to win. He's got to be aggressive, because if he gets in the post, and even if he gets his shot blocked once or twice, but he's drawing that defense from Wemby, someone's going to be open on the perimeter, because Cat isn't going one-on-one with Wemby in the post. If Cat can get down low and draw that double team with Wemby coming over and help, you find the open man, whoever it is, you got the Spurs scrambling, put up a 3. The 3-point shooting has been really well. Not in Game 3, which is what I'll get to next. The bench didn't provide that same spark. Jordan Clarkson had some good minutes in the second quarter. I think he scored like 10 or 11 points in 13 minutes. He played well. But the guys I'm talking about, Landry Shamet, 1 for 7 from 3. He's been so good, he's got to get back to what he was doing. And Deuce, really since the Sixers series, hasn't done anything. I'll pull up the box score right now. But he wasn't good. He's not shooting the ball well. And the problem is he's not a true point guard. He's really a 3-and-D guy. Like, he can't facilitate an offense. I mean, in this one, I don't know if he scored yet. He had 0 points on 0 of 2 from 3. So he's got to be better than that. The guys off the bench, I mean, Mitchell Robinson, 5 points. Shamet, 3. Alvarado, 4. You can live with it. He had that nice pull-up jumper in the mid-range over Wemby. But Deuce, nothing. The bench is how the Knicks are winning this series. Being able to go 8, 9, 10 guys deep, where the Spurs can really only go 7 deep, is such a huge factor for New York. But if they're not scoring and if they're not playing the same defense, it's not going to do anything. The common theme, though, is that the Knicks came out flat and they stayed flat throughout the whole game. I think the moment was a little bit too big for them. They didn't have that same energy, that same mojo they had in games 1 and 2, where they were using their defense to turn into fast breaks and get back on offense and just run up the score a little bit. Like, they only scored 111 points. If you look at this playoff run and how many points they're scoring per game, in Game 2 of the series, they scored 105. That was a real defensive battle. They scored 105 in the first 2 games of the series. But then in the closeout game against Cleveland, 130. In Game 3 against Cleveland, 121, 109, 115, 144, 108, 108, 137, 140, 126, 114. Like, they are a team that can put 125 points on your head easy. Easy. And I'm not expecting that because this is the NBA Finals. The defense is ratcheted up, but I expect a little bit more. And especially, I think the Knicks are a team that, at least in the regular season, they play to the competition of their opponents. Like, they're not really going to run away with a game. They've done it in these playoffs really well against teams they're better than, which I've loved to see. But they don't do that too often. So I expect these games to be close, and especially because the Spurs are a good team. The Spurs are going to keep every game close. I just want to be on pace with the Spurs. Like, it was a 1-point game going into the fourth quarter. I was happy. I was like, all right, here we go. This is like where the Knicks thrive. Jalen Brunson's going to turn into Captain Clutch. He's going to put on the Superman cape. We're at the Garden. We're not losing this game. We're good to go. But Jalen Brunson is off, man. And this is something I'll get to next. but he's not having a good series, and the other guys just weren't able to pick up the slack enough. OG had a really good game, 28 points for him. He hit a ridiculous three with like 35 seconds left to keep the dream alive. He cut it to a 1-point deficit, and the Spurs made their free throws. Stephon Castle hit that back-breaking shot at the end of the shot clock from like the sideline with like a minute and a half left. The Spurs hit shots. The Spurs made plays, and that's what it's going to take for the Knicks to win. They've got to make plays. They've got to stay locked in. You can't let a couple things knock you off your pace, and I don't think that happened, but that's just like overall, you've got to stay on your timing, on your cadence, and not let any of the outside factors like the refs or the crowd take you off your game. Next, getting to Jalen Brunson. He's shooting 37% for the series. He has 13 assists compared to 13 turnovers. These aren't Jalen Brunson numbers. I think he's either hurt or he's pressing. In game one, he got hurt in both the first and second quarters, but then he was able to turn it on in the fourth, so I'm like, okay, that didn't really have an effect on him. However, I think the Knicks might have given him some drugs, some painkillers in the locker room, whatever to get him back on the court. And that wore off and they weren't able to recapture that effect. Or he's pressing. Like, he understands that this might be the Knicks' only shot in the finals, and he's got to do it because he is the captain of this team, and he is the guy, the leader, the 1A player that people doubted him to be. So he's missed a ton of shots, and like I said, he's turning the ball over at way too high of a clip. But the other reason I think he's hurt, he doesn't have that quick first step or that burst to get by Stephon Castle, who has done a really good job. But this is Jalen Brunson against a second-year player. At this point, I would expect Jalen Brunson to have figured out Castle, and he's got to have one of those 35, 40-point performances where it's surgical, where he dominates in every facet of the game, and he hasn't done that yet. So I'm expecting it to happen, and there would be no time like Game 4 to do it. All right, moving on. This isn't going to be an easy series. I keep saying it, but it's going to be a war. The Knicks fans got so comfortable just winning every game and dominating on the road and dominating at home. It didn't matter who was in front of them. They were winning. They went 46 days without a loss. As a fan, you have to learn how to go through a series again. You have to learn how to watch 2 weeks of basketball again. We're only 1 week into the series, and the Knicks are still winning. It feels like after Game 3, the Knicks are down with the amount of panic and disarray I've seen online from Knicks fans. I get it. It wasn't their prettiest game. In fact, it was their worst game since April. It was their largest loss of this postseason. I say that because it was a 4-point loss. The only two other losses were by 1 point each. The Knicks are going to be fine. They just have to adjust and bounce back. And that's what Mike Brown is so good at doing, making those adjustments. And they have the leadership to get through to these guys. They have the voices that are going to be able to connect with the role players. And the Mikal Bridges and the Karl Anthony Towns of the team that didn't have a great Game 3. And get them to step back up and step back into the roles they were playing and really get back on track. Like, it feels like this series is done after one loss. With that said, though, Game 4 will determine the series. Whoever wins, and if it moves to 3-1 and the Knicks go up 3-1, I think it's done. If it goes to 2-2 and the Spurs take back home court advantage, I think it's done going the wrong way. Game 4 is this series. You have to block out the noise. You have to take care of business. You got to put your head down and go to work because nothing else matters at this point. I don't care if you're hurt. I don't care if you're not shooting well. I don't care if you can't play defense well. Overcome the challenge and win, because right now there is no other option. I predicted going into this series, it would be Knicks in 6. I predicted going into this series that Game 2 would be a loss. And the Knicks would come back and win in 6. Lose Game 5 in San Antonio and clinch at the Garden in Game 6. Well, you started off strong with 2 wins. I didn't think you were going to get that second one out in Texas. It's okay to lose Game 3. As long as you bounce back. I keep using that word bounce back because the Knicks have shown me so much over the last 46 days. The Knicks have shown me that they are a championship caliber team over the last 46 days. Now it's time to go prove it. When adversity strikes, what are you doing? Are you going to back down, or are you going to stand up and get back to work? All right, I got a couple comments on the whole security and watch party situation at the Garden, because I think it's just a disgrace that fans who can't get in the building are being denied the opportunity to watch games in that atmosphere with other fans, with other diehards who have really sat through these struggles for 53 years, for 27 years since the last championship appearance. And they're just denied that opportunity. I get it. The prices to get into MSG are ridiculous, and it's not attainable for a lot of people, but those watch parties were where you can go. And with Trump going, I thought the security measures and the barricades around MSG were going to be for Trump and his security. And I thought that sucked because, like I said, for one person, and I get he's the president and the highest ranking official in this country, I get all that. But for one person going to the game, everyone is denied that opportunity. And I get they have watch parties at Bryant Park and Central Park and all these other places, but it's not the same. You want to be outside MSG. That way, when all the fans who do go in are spilling out, everyone is just connected and not split apart across different parts of New York City. And then when I found out today that those security measures weren't for President Trump and it was Zohran Mamdani putting in those measures, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I mean, from a straight logistical standpoint, I think it makes more sense to contain everyone in Plaza 33. You shut down 7th, 8th Ave, everyone is kind of contained rather than them being a watch party in Central Park and Bryant Park. And all these fans that were pissed off after a loss are rioting, and I'll get to that in a second. But all these fans who are going crazy or across different parts of the city, and you've got to have different sets of officers trying to contain those people. It didn't work. There were 21 arrests. There were Spurs fans getting jumped. I mean, the videos were just disgraceful. I mean, I hate that this is what it's come to, and I hate that the Knicks fan is being represented as these fake fans that haven't really been like watching the team, and I don't trust that those are the fans that are like truly locked in on the Knicks. But it sucks that that's what it's come to, because sports are supposed to be the one thing that unifies everyone. The one thing where people from all walks of life can come together and really rally around a team. And it doesn't matter where you're from, what you look like, you root for the team on the chest. You root for the team in blue and orange. And that's just being upended by these idiots that don't know how to act. There's no reason a Spurs fan should be scared to walk in New York City. To be fair, you know what's going to happen. And if I was a Spurs fan, I probably wouldn't put on the Wemby jersey. I probably wouldn't put on the Castle jersey. If I was a Philly fan, I wouldn't wear the Embiid jersey to the city, just because I've seen the videos. I know what's going to go down. But that shouldn't be the case at all. These fans shouldn't be acting like that, and these security measures shouldn't be in place, period. But like, the fans shouldn't have taken it to the level where some security measures have to be put in place. It's just all a shame to me, because that was such a good spot, and it's been under construction for so long. And even like for the people going to the game, James Dolan went on WFAN at 4 o'clock and told people to start heading to the gates now, because it's going to take 3 hours to get in the Garden. Like, that's ridiculous. It just sucks. But ending things on a positive note, let's go get a win tonight. Most important game of the series. Most important game of my lifetime. I trust Jalen Brunson to get me there. I trust Karl Anthony Towns to continue playing lockdown defense on Victor Wembanyama. Let's go Knicks tonight. You need this game. All right, that's going to do it for the episode. If you enjoyed, please consider following, subscribing, sharing, commenting, liking. I really appreciate all the support. Also, if you want to check out all my socials, they're linked in the description below. If you want to leave me a voicemail to react to, you can do so by dialing the number 848-305-8073. Again, that's 848-305-8073. And last but not least, make sure you keep it locked with the Sports Pod.